Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you the game that took me to 2100 Blitz. Now, in this game, I'll show you three key positions specifically, and each position will cover a different Blitz skill. And I believe if you're able to get comfortable with these three different skills, then you also will be able to cross 2000 in a couple of months. So let's get going. Okay, so the first skill is going to be considering candidate moves. Now, the opening started out as a Queen's Gambit, and my opponent played the Dutch defense. And basically, in this position, he played d6 looking for e5, and I castled, and my opponent played knight bd7. Now, in this position, I realized that the e6 pawn is really weak, and my gameplay should continue forward by trying to target this weakness. Now, after a couple of seconds, I realized queen b3 does that nicely, so I end up playing it without thinking too much. Now, what I should have done is basically consider 2 to 3 more moves and then pick from those moves. Now, in this position, I managed to realize that basically e6 is a weakness. So what I should have done is look for moves, which I did, but after queen b3 I should have continued. Like, okay, how do I target this pawn? With my queen b3 is an idea. How about some other pieces? This light skirt bishop, maybe if I somehow play c5 in the future and play bishop c4. How about another piece? Then you look at your knight and you realize knight g5. And now you have your set of options, trying to play c5, maybe bring in the light skirt bishop, queen b3, or knight g5. And when you have these sort of options you can choose from, eventually you'll have the best move among them and you'll end up choosing it more often than not. In this position, knight g5 is the one and only completely winning move, because in this position white has no way to protect his e6 pawn, and the only way he can is by pushing e5 and trying to create some sort of complications in the center. But e6 pawn was not a weakness, e6 the square itself was also a weakness. And here I just play knight e6, I hit the queen and the rook, and I should be winning the exchange, and white has like a +2 advantage. Going back queen b3 isn't a bad move, however knight g5 was just straight up winning. Queen b3 still maintains the advantage for white, and white still goes on to press forward. And now looking back, especially in a game like Blitz where you don't have too much time, it's better to get used to just basically note like trying to form some sort of gameplay. Like here I realized he had a weakness, and it's about looking at a couple of different options and choosing the best one. And at first this might actually take up more time, but after a couple of games, if you're able to keep your frustration down and get used to this, you'll become a much stronger Blitz player. Now, the second and most important, in my opinion, is keeping the initiative going. Especially in a game like Blitz, it's important that you're the one who's throwing the punches, you're the one who's dictating the game. Now, in this position, as I mentioned before, knight g5 was better, but okay, I played queen b3. But one key thing to notice is I'm the one who's going to start grabbing the initiative from here forth. So in this position, black plays knight e4, trying to gain some sort of piece activity and space, and I just continue with my plan of playing c5. And the reason why c5 works here is I'm basically attacking the e6 pawn, and more importantly, my queen will be infiltrating into black's position after this. So black takes on c5, and it's important that I don't get tunnel vision and I just take back on c5. It's important that I am dictating the gameplay and I'm not responding to black. And here queen takes e6 works, because after king h8 I continue pressing forward with knight b5. And the idea with knight b5 is I'm just simply threatening to take on c7 next. Oops. So I'm basically creating another threat. I'm ignoring the pawn on c5 right now, and I'm continue with my game plan. Now here black actually makes a mistake and goes back to d6, and here I can just actually simply trade on d6 once and a second time, and I should be winning a pawn. However, I decide to keep the initiative going even more and I play rook fd1. Now white is still much better in my opinion, but the engine doesn't like this move as much as just winning a pawn immediately. And I I just decided to continue bringing the rook to an open file, I mean soon to be open file, and basically aligning it with the black queen. And black is under more pressure here in my opinion, and it's harder to play. It's basically about choosing practical moves and keeping the initiative going forward. If I press forward, he plays rook f6, trying to gain back some sort of initiative himself. I simply go back to b3, and again still maintain the threat of basically opening up the file and basically taking advantage of black's awkward piece placement, because the knight went from e4 back to d6. This knight on d7 is kind of stuck basically on the file that's soon going to be open, and this e7 bishop doesn't have a bright future anytime soon. Not to mention rook on f6 doesn't do much, because if he goes to g6 again, there isn't really any backup to attack my king. On the other hand, I'm simply having many threats on the queen side and the d file in the center. So he tries to play a4, but I go drop back to c2 with my queen, and again I'm now putting more pressure through x-ray, and soon enough this tension between the pawns in the center will clarify and the position will open up in my favor. So again, it's about basically grabbing initiative and okay, so I kind of saved the best for the last, and I would say the third skill you should need is basically dealing with nerves under time pressure and managing to play with a clear mind. Now, this is much easier said than done, but I have a few tips that could help you to achieve this and improve your level a bit more. So this is what I've been working on the past couple of weeks, and a few things that I worked out is first, changing your mindset to just trying to keep it safe and trying to hang on to material, because usually under time pressure I realize that myself and most people just tend to try to just gobble as much material or just give a bunch of random checks, and usually that doesn't end up that doesn't end up working most of the times, especially when you try to work your way up the rating ladder up to like 2000. So one thing I would say is again something that goes back to skill 2 kind of, it's about keeping initiative and more importantly just leaving your opponents with a lot of options. So you make threats or you give a lot of options to them, and usually that's where their mind gets sort of messed up and they drop a couple of seconds here and there under time pressure and you end up flagging them. Now I want to show you this game specifically and show how me and my opponent both try to do that. Of course, we are not like Magnus and Hikaru, so we have a lot of blunders. If you look at the engine evaluations, they go up and down, but there is some sort of reasoning behind our moves, and there is a reason why we are at 2100. So I'd just like to show this and explain how if you kind of embrace this mindset, you'll get better as well. So in this version, I play bishop c6, which is a blunder because it allows my opponent to just keep checking me with queen g4 and sort of get initiative back. Of course, I don't have enough time to see this, but my idea behind bishop c6 was making a threat, hitting his knight, and that's one more thing at the back of his mind when he's trying to give me checks, is that his knight is hanging, and if he runs out of checks, he'll lose it. So again, he starts checking me, and as you see, immediately he moves his knight back to next move because he gave a check. He realized, wait a minute, my knight is hanging, so his next pre-move automatically went to his knight, even though technically checking should have been what he should have continued. Anyway, uh, I play knight f5 again, basically freeing my pieces, creating another threat. More importantly, I'm just opening up my queen, and as you see, if I end up pushing through, I should checkmate. So again, I'm trying to keep going forward and making threats. Here, my opponent moves his bishop again, trying to protect it, and I just infiltrate, and it was actually mate in 3 in this position, but I missed it. Instead, I play knight e7, trying to put pressure and checkmate this way, but it doesn't quite work because my opponent keeps checking me, and here I blunder again and my opponent comes back. As you see, the engine evaluation is going up and down, but I last few moves have been with purpose. I'm trying to push forward and checkmate him. He's trying to give me checks and basically annoy me, and in this position it's actually draw because black has enough checks, but again under time pressure he plays the wrong check and I end up escaping and I do checkmate. But as you saw throughout the game, there was purpose behind our moves. We weren't just trying to move like very randomly. Instead, he was trying to give me checks, create counterplay, and open up my king. I was trying to just move my pieces forward, give him options, and kind of tense him up more during the time situation. So it's about trying to create threats, leave options, and basically try to keep pushing forward. and it'll end up more often than not at the lower levels under time pressure. So that's it for this segment, and see you in the bonus. Okay, so if you made it this far all through my messy explanations of some sort, uh, thanks for watching, and I would like to basically give you some sort of encouragement, and it's to just keep playing. And usually it's really hard to keep track of candidate moves and trying to find moves that keep the initiative going, but once you get into the habit, you'll start to see your rating will increase. Like, one thing with me was I was around like 2050 or whatever, but I found it really hard to just move forward because I kept losing and winning and losing and winning. So that's when I decided to go back, work on my fundamentals of candidate moves, grabbing initiative, and all these sorts of stuff. And I actually ended up dropping all the way to 1900. So I lost a bunch of rating points there, but I was more focused on building those skills and spending time on them. And eventually, once I got them to perfect out, all of a sudden my rating went back up again. And now I'm crossing 2050 and I hit 2100. And I can sort of sense that my blitz skills have gotten better, which is why I made this video. So hopefully you find this patience too, and just play a lot of blitz games while you're practicing these. It's important once you play a game, you go back and you analyze not just what your blunders were, but also practically like what was happening in my head or what was the time situation and whatnot, and you will improve too. So that's it for this video, and hope to see you next time. Bye.